If you've ever seen the inside of a real music studio, you've probably seen this chair sitting somewhere in the corner of the shot. The Herman Miller Aeron. And up until 3 weeks ago, I'd never sat in one. I'd never even seen one in person. I just knew that that was the chair. So I bought one, well, in collaboration with someone. And I should tell you who you're dealing with here because it's the whole reason this video exists. I'm a bit of a cheapskate. I'm a guy who spends 4 days researching a $30 cable. So for me to hand over 4 digits for a chair was never going to happen quietly. Here's what I was actually trying to fix. I can sit at my desk for about 40 minutes before my back gives out and I have to stand up and walk it off. 40 minutes is not enough time for me to do anything. I want to sit down and start working and then not think about my body until I was done. This is what I've been sitting on. No armrests, so my arms hang off the sides all day until they're dead, and then I end up propping them on the edge of the desk, which is how you wreck your wrist as a bonus. The seat isn't firm, it's hard as rocks, and somewhere around hour 2, my upper back locks up and I turn into a shrimp. It got to the point where I'd look at my desk and literally not want to sit down and work. So this is a problem. I could fix this with money. I just don't really want to be the guy who fixed it with that much money. So I did whatever a cheapskate does. I went to Facebook Marketplace. This place is full of these things. Secondhand Aerons at half price, and then I found a Herman Miller Cosm going for cheap. Barely used, good photos, seller seemed normal. I nearly sent him the money that night, and in my head I'd already won. Like, come on, same brand, half the price, and I get to feel like smart about it. But I've bought a lot of used gear over the years and it's never once been amazing. There's always something like a squeak, a wobble that shows up in month 3, and this was going to be the thing I sit in more than my own bed. So I told him, wait a minute, and I decided I'd go and sit in one in person before I paid anyone $1. That decision saved me about $800, and I'll show you exactly how in a minute. Then I started calling some stores. Every single chair place in Sydney, one after the other, asking them, what would you recommend for someone who sits for 8 hours? And every single one of them was an hour's drive away in a different direction. So trying all the models properly was going to cost me an entire day. But a couple of them told me something I did not expect. They said, go to the big retailer, sit in everything, take as long as you want, bring a computer, and then come back and buy it from us. Because that big retailer, who I'm not going to name, will sell you a base model for a price that should come with a car. No armrest, no lumbar support, nothing. You pay flagship money and you walk out with the stripped base model. Now here's the part I didn't know about this chair, and it's got nothing to do with backs. In the .com era, the Aeron was a flex. Startups with zero revenue were buying them by the hundreds because it was the fastest way to look like a real company. Then companies all died, the liquidators auctioned the chairs off by the truckload, and then for about 10 years, a secondhand Aeron was basically a receipt for a business that failed. It's also sitting in the Museum of Modern Art in New York, in the permanent collection. And there's a reason for that. Bill Stump and Don Chadwick designed it back in 1994 and they took the foam out completely. So instead of squashing it into padding, you're suspended in a mesh. That mesh has 8 separate zones pulled to different tensions. So it's firm under your bones and it gives where your spine needs to move. And down at the bottom, there's a part called posture fit that pushes on your pelvis. Which sounds like the wrong end of the problem until you find out the reason your upper back curves forward is that the base of your spine isn't being held. Then I remembered a listing I'd scrolled past. Someone selling this brand new and sealed for a cheap price. And I still had the number. So I called the guy and he gives me the address on Upper North Shore, a house. And I'm sitting in the car outside going, is this a chair or is this a kidney? Okay. I think this might be it. Turns out the showroom is the guy's house. The salesperson sells chairs out of their living room. And this person knew more about chairs than anyone else I'd spoken to that week. He's got the Aerons out, a few Chinese brands sitting next to him. I tried the cheap ones first, and you feel it straight away. The mesh doesn't push back, the armrests are hollow, plastic, and every part of it quietly reminds you of what you paid. Then I asked him about the Cosm, because, I still had that guy on Marketplace waiting on my money. He looked at me and told me, the one that you told me is dimensionally a size B, and you fit better in size C. This is the mineral color in size B, and this is the onyx color in size C. This is how I fit. I feel pretty crammed sitting on this one. My legs are like compressed in. This is a size C, and I have much more space to move my bum around. So the bargain I nearly bought on Facebook Marketplace was a chair I would have been a bit too big for sitting in my house, and unreturnable forever. Yeah, hey, sorry, I need to cancel the Cosmo, please. I've purchased the Aeron instead. Yeah, sorry about that. Alright, thank you, bye. Then we got to discussing the Embody, because my cousin owns one and I'd sat in it at his desk and it was genuinely comfortable. The salesperson said, well, hardly anyone buys it and it's padded, which is the exact thing I'm running away from. It's also $1,000 more. So I came into the Aeron in 3 colors, metallic, black, and graphite. The metallic one looks incredible and I wanted it, but when I sat in it, it felt tighter than the graphite one. I said something and the salesperson told me the mesh firmness varies chair to chair, and it's random, nothing to do with the color. For this price tag, I wasn't taking anybody's word for it, including his, so I looked it up standing right there in his living room, and what I found said the opposite. That this isn't random, that the lighter mesh needs titanium dioxide in the yarn to get that color, and the pigment stiffens the fiber. Graphite doesn't need it, graphite is softer. I'm buying this chair for exactly one reason. Softness wins. So graphite it was. I was about to make a purchase in a stranger's living room running the same math I'd been running for 2 weeks. $150 buys you my old chair, $500 buys you a new chair. This is 4 of those. I bought it anyway. I asked him if there was anything he could do with the price, because you always ask, and he said, yeah, sure. Then they threw the headrest in for free. 给你转账 OK 了吗？
OK。
OK， 好，谢谢。
好。
好。When I opened the box and fully unpacked it, I realized that there's adjustable hand, the full back support, and with the headrest. The chair they gave me doesn't have a single option missing on this thing. The version that big retailer wanted flagship money for doesn't have half of it. First thing you notice is the wheels, which roll across the hard floor with no drag and no crunch. Then the armrest, and my arms have somewhere to live for the first time in about 2 years. The headrest is the one that surprised me. My upper back started to straighten out, not on its own, not because I was concentrating on it, but because there was finally something behind me to put the weight into. So if you buy one of these, get every option, don't buy the base model and tell yourself you add the rest later. I've had it for a week and I'm still learning how to actually sit in it because a few years of bad posture doesn't undo itself in 7 days. But last night I sat down at 6 p.m. and got up about midnight and my back was completely fine. 这个还有按摩的。
这个按摩功能，它旁边有遥控器。
Wow.